I want you to completely erase everything you think you know about light.
Yeah, we really need to start with a blank slate today.
Seriously, just for the duration of this conversation, I want you to stop thinking of light merely as, the physical illumination that allows you to see the room around you.
Right, or just the thing that triggers your circadian rhythm so you wake up.
Exactly. Instead, I want you to imagine light as the literal foundational biological programming code of your physical body. Like, imagine it as a tangible physical language that your cells are actively using to communicate with one another right at this very second.
Which is a massive conceptual leap, I know. We are stepping way beyond basic optics today.
We really are. We are exploring a text today that suggests light is the unseen engine of human metabolism. And to explore a paradigm shift of that magnitude, we have to move deliberately.
Yeah, we cannot just skim the surface of this material. We are going to meticulously analyze the fundamental mechanics of a truly profound text, breaking down the arguments sentence by sentence.
Absolutely. So the material we are dissecting today in this deep dive is the book Cracking the Code of Light. And to be very clear right from the start, the author of this book is Mohammad Nasiruddin Azeemi.
Right, Mohammad Nasiruddin Azeemi.
And our mission today isn't to just, give you a breezy, high-level summary of his work. We are going to aggressively elaborate on almost every single concept presented in this specific chapter, which is titled Light and Colors.
Because we really want to uncover the profound biophysical depths of what the book Cracking the Code of Light said. We need to explore the how and the why behind these massive biological claims.
Which is super necessary because Mohammad Nasiruddin Azeemi does not start with biology, right? He starts with foundational physics.
He does. To understand the biological claims later in the chapter, we really have to understand his specific definition of the medium first.
Right.
The book, Cracking the Code of Light, said that light is an electromagnetic energy. And from a strictly scientific standpoint, he establishes that the basic unit of this light is the photon.
And since we're dealing with the actual mechanics here, let's look at how Mohammad Nasiruddin Azeemi describes the movement of these photons. Because honestly, this is where the physics gets incredibly strange.
It really defies our everyday intuition.
It does. The book, Cracking the Code of Light, said that light can travel through space and any transparent object without the use of a medium.
No medium whatsoever.
When you really think about the physics of that, it's just wild. I mean, if I create a sound wave right now, it requires the air molecules in this room to physically bump into each other to reach your ear.
Right. Sound needs that physical ladder to climb.
Exactly. But the author is highlighting that electromagnetic energy is entirely self-propagating. It actively generates its own oscillating electric and magnetic fields to just, move through the absolute void of a vacuum.
That self-propagating nature is crucial to understand. And Mohammad Nasiruddin Azeemi points out another vital characteristic of this energy while it's in transit.
What's that?
Well, the text argues that light is not just this uniform, monolithic entity. The book Cracking the Code of Light said it is actually a complex mix of assorted vibrations and wavelengths.
So it's not just one smooth beam.
Not at all. You have an incredibly chaotic storm of different frequencies, all just overlapping and traveling together through the vacuum.
Which brings us to the exact mechanism of human perception. Azeemi makes this fascinating argument about how we actually interact with that chaotic storm.
Yeah, the visual rendering process.
When detailing how we perceive this mix of assorted vibrations, the book Cracking the Code of Light said that these wavelengths are sensed on the eye screen, and he specifically mentions the iris here.
Right.
But wait, I have to ask. The book describes the iris like a literal movie screen. How do these assorted, chaotic vibrations physically translate into the brain actually realizing color?
That's the perfect question. We need to unpack the biological translation happening at that eye screen. Because when those assorted vibrations of electromagnetic energy physically strike the photoreceptors in your eye, they actually possess no intrinsic color at all.
Wait, really?
None. None. A 400 nanometer wave isn't inherently blue out in the universe. It is literally just a physical vibration of energy.
Oh, wow.
The photoreceptors in your eye absorb that specific kinetic energy, and they undergo a physical structural change. And that change triggers an action potential, basically an electrical impulse.
Okay, so the eye is essentially acting as a biological transducer. It's taking this chaotic electromagnetic radiation and converting it into a standardized electrical language that the nervous system can actually read.
Exactly. And then the book Cracking the Code of Light said this signal is then sent through to the brain, which is where it is finally realized as color.
That completely recontextualizes our entire reality. I mean, color doesn't actually exist out in the universe.
Yep.
It is a highly specific, localized hallucination rendered entirely by your visual cortex. The universe is just vibrating energy, and your brain just invents the color to make sense of the math.
It is a stunning biological trick.
Yeah.
And understanding that your body is actively intercepting and translating these electromagnetic frequencies, well, that's the perfect bridge to the author's next major argument.
Because Mohammad Nasiruddin Azeemi shifts from how light affects our vision to how it fundamentally dictates our cellular biology. And here he introduces the biophysical research of Dr. Fritz Albert Popp.
Yes.
And I have to say, this is where the text makes a massive, deeply astonishing leap. Azeemi quotes Dr. Popp directly here.
What's the quote?
The book Cracking the Code of Light said, "We know today that man is essentially a being of light."
Yeah, that is a heavy sentence.
Now, I just have to stop right there. Because calling humans beings of light sounds like, I don't know, pure, unadulterated mysticism. Is the author speaking purely metaphorically here, or is there a literal, measurable, biophysical mechanism he is pointing to?
Mohammad Nasiruddin Azeemi is actually pointing to a highly specific, literal biophysical mechanism. The text is referencing the discovery of biophotons.
Okay, explain that, because I am fascinated.
The argument here is that human cells are not just these squishy bags of biochemicals. There are highly structured piezoelectric entities that literally emit and absorb ultra-weak photon emissions.
So we are literally glowing.
In a way, yes. The DNA inside our cells acts as a resonant cavity, actively trapping and transmitting actual light.
So the argument is that this isn't poetry at all. It is a measurable optical network operating underneath our normal biochemical network.
Right.
And that optical network leads to the claim in the text that absolutely stopped me in my tracks. I mean, my jaw hit the floor.
The healing implications, right?
Yes. The book Cracking the Code of Light said that genetic cellular damage can be virtually repaired within hours by faint beams of light.
It's an incredibly bold assertion.
Astonishing. He is suggesting a biophysical mechanism that bypasses standard biochemistry entirely. How on earth is a faint beam of light physically repairing a broken strand of DNA?
Well, if we impartially analyze the mechanism the author is proposing here, we have to look at resonant energy transfer.
Okay.
In standard biochemistry, repairing DNA requires complex enzymes, ATP for energy, and this whole cascade of physical molecular interactions.
Right. It's a slow physical process.
But the text argues that light can initiate or arrest cascade-like reactions in the cells instantaneously. The theory is that a specific frequency of light, a specific photon, carries the exact activation energy required to snap a damaged molecular bond back into its proper place.
Oh my goodness.
It's a phenomenon called photoreactivation.
So instead of sending a physical chemical to do the job, your body is beaming the exact resonant frequency required to just vibrate the broken molecule back into its correct structural alignment.
Exactly. And the author argues this is why the reaction is so rapid. You are communicating at the speed of light, using the native language of the cell.
That is just incredible.
It is. And Mohammad Nasiruddin Azeemi uses this concept to deliver a really emphatic conclusion via Dr. Popp. The book Cracking the Code of Light said, "We are still on the threshold of fully understanding the complex relationship between light and life, but we can now say emphatically that the function of our entire metabolism is dependent on light."
Emphatically. I mean, think about the gravity of that claim for a moment. Every time you eat, breathe, or move, light is the unseen engine.
It drives everything.
Every single metabolic process in your body. Digesting the breakfast you ate, firing the neurons required to listen to this exact sentence, healing a cut on your finger. Azeemi argues that light is the primary engine driving all of it.
Your metabolism isn't just about caloric intake and chemical breakdown. It is fundamentally dependent on an underlying optical network.
And if human metabolism is entirely dependent on this optical network, it begs a huge question. What happens when we drastically alter the light we consume?
And that is exactly the causal question that drives the next section of the text. Mohammad Nasiruddin Azeemi introduces the perspective of Jacob Lieberman, who wrote Light, Medicine of the Future.
Right.
The argument here is that if light is the language of the cells, we must critically examine the vocabulary we are exposing ourselves to every day.
And to understand that vocabulary, Mohammad Nasiruddin Azeemi meticulously defines the spectrum for us.
He does.
The book, Cracking the Code of Light, said that visible light is composed of waves of radiant energy measured in nanometers, spanning from roughly 400 to 700 nanometers.
But the crucial argument the author makes here is specifically about sunlight.
Because sunlight doesn't just provide a few random frequencies. Sunlight provides the total electromagnetic spectrum, every single wavelength of radiant energy under which all planetary life evolved over billions of years.
Our biology is perfectly, inextricably calibrated to that exact total solar spectrum.
Which brings the author to a highly specific and honestly kind of tragic historical crisis point. The year 1879.
Yes, 1879.
The year Thomas Edison perfected the incandescent light bulb. And I find Azeemi's framing of this moment just endlessly fascinating.
How so?
Well, the book Cracking the Code of Light said that until 1879, people spent most of their time outdoors, receiving adequate daily doses of natural sunlight. But the widespread adoption of the light bulb changed the course of human biology forever.
And the author does acknowledge the innovation, to be fair. The book, Cracking the Code of Light, said Edison's invention was a quantum leap in technology.
Sure.
But Mohammad Nasiruddin Azeemi argues it simultaneously created a devastating biological consequence. It created a situation where people lost respect for nature's daily light and dark cycle.
We really need to pause and look at the sheer scale of the biological trade-off the author is highlighting here. I mean, did we accidentally trade our primary full-spectrum biological power source, the exact evolutionary calibration our cells require, just for the convenience of making life an indoor event?
That's exactly what he's arguing. We swapped the total spectrum of our local star for a tiny, narrow, artificial band of illumination, all so we could stay up later and increase industrial productivity.
It's wild to think about it like that.
And the text argues that by making life largely an indoor event, we drastically reduced our exposure to the full spectrum of light. We basically inadvertently placed human biology into a state of chronic optical malnutrition.
Optical malnutrition, wow.
Yeah, we literally cut off the specific frequencies our cells use to communicate and regulate metabolism.
And if you want to know exactly how that malnutrition physically breaks down the body, Mohammad Nasiruddin Azeemi dives straight into the internal biochemistry next. And I have to admit, the mechanism he outlines here is completely astonishing.
It really is a brilliant intersection of biology and physics. The author brings in the insights of Albert St. Georgi, a Nobel Prize-winning biochemist who actually isolated vitamin C.
Okay, so we are dealing with serious, Nobel-level biochemical observations here. What does St. Georgi argue about our interaction with light?
Well, the book, Cracking the Code of Light, said St. Georgi acknowledged that the eating and consumption of various kinds of food by humans and other living beings pertains to the accumulation, utilization, as well as movement of the energy generated by light.
Which, makes perfect thermodynamic sense. A plant captures solar photons through photosynthesis and stores that radiant energy in chemical bonds.
Exactly.
When you eat a salad, you are quite literally consuming organized, stored sunlight. But Azeemi takes it a massive step further, detailing exactly how our bodies process that stored sunlight internally.
And this is the jaw-dropping part.
It is. The book Cracking the Code of Light said that St. Georgi discovered many enzymes and hormones involved in processing this energy are actually colored and very sensitive to light.
That is the pivotal claim right there. Colored enzymes operating deep inside the dark confines of the human body.
I mean, enzymes having a physical color, that is amazing.
It's incredible. And Mohammad Nasiruddin Azeemi thoroughly elaborates on the mechanism of what happens when external light interacts with these internal enzymes. The book, Cracking the Code of Light, said that when stimulated by selected colors light, these enzymes and hormones undergo frequent molecular changes.
Let's break down the physical mechanics of that molecular change for a second. We are talking about photosomerization.
Right.
When a specific frequency of light hits an enzyme, if the frequency perfectly matches the atomic resonance of that molecule, the energy is absorbed. And that absorption literally bends the physical shape of the enzyme. It causes a literal structural shift.
Precisely. And in biochemistry, as we know, the physical shape of an enzyme dictates its entire function. It is a lock-and-key mechanism.
So if you change the shape of the key,
you completely change what metabolic doors it can open. But Mohammad Nasiruddin Azeemi points out an even more visual consequence of this structural shift.
Oh, right.
The book Cracking the Code of Light said these light-induced changes actually alter their original colors.
This is literally internal molecular alchemy. The light hits the enzyme, bends its physical structure, which in turn alters the wavelengths of light it absorbs and reflects, meaning its physical color literally changes.
It's a continuous, dynamic feedback loop.
And most importantly, the book Cracking the Code of Light said these changes significantly affect the power of these enzymes and hormones to cause dynamic reactions within the body.
So the entire metabolic power of these biological catalysts is completely contingent upon them receiving the correct frequencies of light.
Right.
The author implies that the apparent color of an enzyme is basically a direct, visible indicator of its current molecular structure and its biological readiness.
Which forces us to confront Jacob Lieberman's vital question, which is posed directly by the author in the text. This book, Cracking the Code of Light, said, if light striking the body can literally alter the basic biological functions involved in processing the body's fuel, what would be the effect of living under light that is significantly different from sunlight?
And that is the ultimate biological crisis Mohammad Nasiruddin Azeemi is outlining for us.
It is.
If specific wavelengths of light are the required triggers to shape and power our colored enzymes, and we spend our entire lives sitting under artificial fluorescent or LED lights that are completely devoid of huge sections of the natural spectrum, we are systematically starving our metabolic engines.
We are literally starving the colored enzymes. The conclusion the author draws from this biophysical reality is incredibly stark.
It really is.
The book, Cracking the Code of Light, said the implications are eye-opening, confirming that natural light and all of its full-spectrum components must be integral to human well-being. You just cannot separate human health from the total solar spectrum.
And that profound realization naturally forces Mohammad Nasiruddin Azeemi to question the very nature of the spectrum itself. He pivots from our internal biology to external reality, asking a deeply philosophical question.
Which is?
Why can colors be seen at all? What actually is color?
The physics of visible reality. Azeemi's explanation here is wonderfully elegant, honestly. The book Cracking the Code of Light said that color is an attribute of light that is made up with darkness. It is an interplay of absorption and reflection.
He details the extremes to really illustrate the point clearly.
Right.
If the color of an object is black, we only perceive it as black because its molecular structure absorbs every single wavelength of the visible spectrum. None of the light escapes. It is entirely consumed by the object.
And on the flip side, a white object can be seen because it reflects all the rays or waves of light equally back at the viewer.
Exactly.
So if you are looking at a bright green leaf, the text highlights that the leaf itself possesses no intrinsic greenness. The book, Cracking the Code of Light, said we only see a specific color when an object absorbs all other colors except that one.
It's all about what's rejected.
Exactly. The molecular structure of the leaf absorbs the red wavelengths, the blue wavelengths, the violet wavelengths, and uses them for energy. It rejects the green wavelength, bouncing it back into the environment. So the color you perceive is literally the energy the object refused to absorb.
It is a beautiful way to understand our visual environment. But Mohammad Nasiruddin Azeemi doesn't allow the reader to just settle into comfortable scientific definitions.
No, he doesn't.
He immediately disrupts that comfort by highlighting the massive, unanswered philosophical mysteries that still surround this whole topic.
I loved this part of the text because despite our incredibly advanced understanding of photons and photoreceptors, the author asks fundamental questions that still baffle us. The book, Cracking the Code of Light, said, what are colors? How do they develop? What is the basic color?
And the author points out the sheer lack of scientific consensus on these foundational questions.
Right. The book Cracking the Code of Light said some scholars describe the total number of basic colors as 4, some argue there are only 3 basic colors, and some philosophical schools consider black to be the absolute foundational basic color from which everything else emerges.
It's fascinating how unsettled it all is. To attempt to organize this mystery, Mohammad Nasiruddin Azeemi traces the modern understanding back to the year 1666.
Newton.
Yes. The book Cracking the Code of Light said that Sir Isaac Newton presented the theory of colors, demonstrating that when seemingly white sunlight passes through a glass prism, it disperses into the specific colors existing within the sunlight, separating them based on their consistent particular intensities.
We commonly understand that apparent separation of wavelengths as a rainbow.
We do. But Mohammad Nasiruddin Azeemi introduces a highly specific, profound term from spiritual sciences to describe this phenomenon. The book Cracking the Code of Light said that in spiritual sciences, this distinct spectrum is termed TAF.
TAFE. And the author makes it very clear that the colors of this TAFE are entirely proportionate to the physical wavelengths of those specific colors.
The text meticulously lists the components of the TAFE for us.
Right. Let's go through them.
The book Cracking the Code of Light said it consists of exactly 7 colors: red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, and violet.
The classic 7.
Right. And the author posits that every single existing color variation you can perceive in the world is simply a developed shade or combination of these 7 basic colors of the type.
But Azeemi includes a really vital evolutionary detail about how human biology interacts with the type, and it connects perfectly back to what we discussed earlier about our calibration to the sun.
Oh, this is a great point.
The book, Cracking the Code of Light, said our eyes are vastly more sensitive to the colors yellow and green.
And he explains the precise reason for that sensitivity, too. The author points out that the physical impact and intensity of sun rays over the colors yellow and green are significantly more intense than the rest of the spectrum.
So our biological eye screens didn't just evolve randomly. They evolved to maximize the specific peak output of our local star. Our biology is a direct reflection of the sun's specific energy signature.
That's perfectly synced.
Those 7 colors of the type make up what we call the visible spectrum. But Mohammad Nasiruddin Azeemi concludes this chapter by forcefully reminding us of our profound biological blindness.
Yes, the author meticulously outlines the vast oceans of energy that we simply cannot process. The book Cracking the Code of Light said that rays, or waves, with a wavelength of 380 nanometers or less, cannot be seen by the human eye.
Because 380 nanometers is the absolute biological limit of violet light. Anything shorter, anything vibrating faster than that is completely invisible to our eye screen.
The text notes this includes ultraviolet rays, X-rays, and the incredibly destructive power of gamma rays. All of it is just washing over us constantly, completely undetected.
And the exact same biological limitation applies to the other end of the type, right?
Yes. The book Cracking the Code of Light said that rays with wavelengths of 780 nanometers or more also cannot be seen.
Because that is the absolute limit of red light. Beyond 780 nanometers, the waves are just too long and slow for our biological rendering engine to process. That invisible realm includes microwaves, radio waves, and the infrared rays that carry heat.
Mohammad Nasiruddin Azeemi really leaves us with a profound realization here. Human reality is functionally just a tiny, narrow sliver of what actually exists in the universe.
It really is.
Our entire conscious experience is dictated by the highly specific, incredibly limited biological hardware of our eye screens and our colored enzymes.
And, the author leaves us with one final, intriguing note on human perception, suggesting that the boundaries of the type might not be absolute for everyone. The text hints that while the vast majority are bound by these limits, not everyone is strictly confined to seeing only the 7 colors in the visible spectrum. It leaves the door open to the mysteries of expanded biological or spiritual perception.
It is a stunning, paradigm-shifting text. We started with the physics of a photon traveling through a vacuum, and Mohammad Nasiruddin Azeemi took us all the way to the molecular alchemy of colored enzymes and the spiritual boundaries of the type.
So I want to leave you with a final thought to mull over as you go about the rest of your day, based on the profound depths we've explored in this text. If your cells literally communicate through the physical language of light, and the specific wavelengths of that light actively, structurally alter the molecular shape and power of your biological hormones, how might the artificial narrowband lighting and the specific painted colors of the room you are sitting in right now be actively, subtly rewriting your cellular health?
That's definitely something to think about.
Thanks for watching and listening to this podcast, which will enhance your knowledge and will change your vision toward your health and its cure through colors. Like the video, subscribe the channel, and forward it to like-minded people. Also subscribe, join our WhatsApp channel, which link is given below. Allah Hafiz.